Hi, I'm Dawn Eden Goldstein. I'm the author of Father Ed, the story of Bill W.'s spiritual sponsor, which is the only full biography of Father Edward Dowling, the Jesuit who was a spiritual advisor to Bill W., the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. Father Ed himself was not an alcoholic. For that reason, he called himself underprivileged because he believed that the members of AA were the truly privileged people. I am, like him, a non-alcoholic. I feel the same way. I am that the AAs are privileged, and it is my great blessing in life to have written the biography of this holy priest so that I can share his story with people who are interested in the history of the 12-step movement. As I record this, it's a few days before the Eucharistic Congress in Indianapolis, where I'll be giving a talk not at the Congress, but adjacent to it on Thursday, July 18th, 2024. If you're interested in that, you can find information on my blog, which is at Dawn Eden, DAWNEDEN.blogspot.com. Again, that's dawneden.blogspot.com. If you're watching this on Twitter, you're going to see just about a minute's preview of the talk that I'm giving at the nearby place to the Eucharistic Congress. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see the whole video. So if you're seeing this on Twitter, there should be a link in the tweet where you can watch the whole video. But I wanted to give a preview because I wanted you to see how relevant Father Ed's spirituality that he passed on to Bill Wilson and through Bill to AA, how relevant it is for people who are going to the Eucharistic Congress, and how relevant it is for Catholics who love the Holy Eucharist. It's a great sorrow to me that I wasn't able to speak at the Eucharistic Congress. In fact, there's not even a Friends of Bill W. room there, which is why, with a couple of great nonprofits that help people in recovery, I Thirst and the Ignatian Spirituality Project, I was able to organize this talk. So in this talk, I'll be sharing some never before seen information about Father Ed's thought that comes from the private archive of Father Ed's nephew, Paul Dowling. Namely, I'll be sharing the original information from the original notes for Father Ed's talk that he gave at the 1955 AA International Convention, where speaking on the topic of God as we understand him, which is taken from the 3rd and 11th steps of the 12 steps of AA, speaking on that topic, Father Ed branched out into speaking about how, whereas the 12 steps of AA are man's 12 steps towards God, there are also God's 12 steps toward man. So let me now minimize myself here. I'm going to show you first just a bit from Alcoholics Anonymous Comes of Age, which is the this is my Kindle edition. That's a book that includes the edited text of the talk that Father Ed gave at the 1955 AA International Convention. You can see here he says, "We know AA's 12 steps of man toward God. May I suggest God's 12 steps toward man as Christianity has taught them to me." Now, if you were to listen to Father Ed's talk at this 1955 conference, which you can find audio of on YouTube, you'll notice that as he goes through the steps, he gets the step numbers mixed up. He doesn't, he's not quite sure which step is which. And even when it's reproduced in AA Comes of Age, it doesn't quite number each step. So it's hard to see exactly how there are 12 steps. Um, but thanks to Father Ed Dowling's nephew, Paul, I was able to photograph the original notes that Father Ed wrote for his talk. These are Father Ed's original notes. The first thing you can notice is that he wrote in all caps. At this time, or he typed in all caps. At this time, Father Ed had suffered a retinal stroke. He was terribly disabled. He had a crippling form of arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, since he was 23. And so he had difficulty typing, and from the retinal stroke that he had suffered in about 1953 or so, he had difficulty reading as well, and I think that may have made it difficult for him to number the steps. One thing you can see is that he starts to kind of get into trouble numbering the steps, and he tries to write, here he's got the th step, which he corrects to the fourth, and then the fourth step, which he corrects to the fifth, and so on. But I'm just going to quickly read to you what the actual numbering of these steps are, so that when you hear Father Ed speak about them in his 1955 talk on YouTube, or when you read them in AA Comes of Age, you can see how they're numbered. So the first step described by St. John is the incarnation. One thing I think is quite amazing is this line about Jesus. He turned his life and will over to the care of man as he understood him. That didn't really strike me until I was reading this. It's in AA Comes of Age, but somehow I just here you can see it in AA Comes of Age, but somehow I just missed that, and it wasn't clear to me until I read it here, and that's from the third and the 12th steps of AA, where it speaks of God as we understood him, or third and 11th steps, correction, God as we understood him. So here Jesus is here's Jesus, who is God, turning his life and will over to the care of man as he understood him. That's humility, which is really Father Ed's great legacy to AA, what Father Ed taught Bill W. and through Bill the world about the importance of humility for lasting sobriety, for living the 12 steps. I'm going to go through these other steps very quickly. I'll speak about them more at length in my talk at the Eucharistic Congress. But you can see second step is, so the first step is really God's decision to become incarnate. You could say it's the Annunciation. The second step is 9 months later, the birth of Christ. Third step is the anonymous hidden life, like our own, the next 30 years of Jesus' life. The fourth step is the 3 years of Jesus' public life, and Father Ed speaks about how Jesus, he was hungry, he thirsted, he experienced human cravings. Just as the alcoholic has cravings, and just as every human being has a craving, a desire that can only ultimately be satisfied by God. The fifth step is Jesus' teaching, but particularly not just in general his public life teaching, but his direct ministry to poor, sinners, winebibbers, Skid Row. You can see Father Ed wrote in his own handwriting, panhandlers. He was trying to make sure he included everybody. And then the sixth step on Calvary, Jesus' great suffering of body, his thirst. Here, Father Ed backtracks a bit, going to Gethsemane with Jesus' soul suffering, so well known to the alcoholics, humiliation, fear, loneliness. Here you see Father Ed's little abbreviations, dis and fut. I think it means discouragement over the future. That's my best guess anyway. Um, then, hopefully I'm numbering these right now. This is quite confusing. The eighth step, death, the pietà, which is the lowest that divinity can come down as a dead God in the lap of a human mother. So for Father Ed, this is where Jesus experiences hitting bottom, just as the alcoholic hits bottom. Then, and this was where it gets confusing in the recording, it's the ninth step. Jesus comes to us through the ages. It's interesting because you're expecting, like, wait, isn't there the resurrection? And there is. And Father Ed is just sort of assuming the resurrection. He's assuming that Jesus is still living, is alive, but he's more interested than he's not just interested in the in the days that the risen Jesus walked this earth. He's interested in the life of the risen Jesus as the head of, here it says mystical boy. He meant to say mystical body. He's interested in Jesus' life as the head of a mystical body, a sort of Christians Anonymous, and how his influence continues through the life of Christians. It's so interesting in that there's something here that Father Ed did not say in his talk, which is, he said, even as Dr. Bob, who had died by then, and Bill continue their influence through a society. It shows how deeply Father Ed identified AA with the mystical body of Christ. He truly believed that people in AA, whether they knew it or not, were doing the work of Christ, filling up what is wanting in the sufferings of Christ, and doing to the least of their brethren what they, doing for Jesus whatever they do for the least of their brethren. Then the 10th step, the Christian Church, Christ here now. This is where Father Ed, if you listen to his talk or read it, he's got a wonderful analogy for people who say, "Oh well, I don't like I like Jesus, but I don't like Christianity or churchianity." He's got a wonderful answer to that I'll leave you to find. Then the 11th step, several great pipelines of sacraments of God's help. Here he says big inch pipelines. I don't think he actually said big inch in his talk. He might have. The Big Inch was the name of the first great oil pipeline or gas pipeline. 12th step, here we get to the reason for the Eucharistic Congress, the great sacrament of union, of communion. The Word that was God, that became flesh, becomes our food, as close to us as the fruit juice and toast we had an hour ago. So I hope that those of you who are in Indianapolis for the Eucharistic Congress can come and hear me speak about Father Ed. And if you're not coming to the Eucharistic Congress, please bring me to speak where you are about Father Ed. I would love to bring this message to your town, to your parish, to your university, to your group. You can contact me at dawneden, DAWNEDEN, @gmail.com. Thank you and God bless you.